Hey everyone, I have a quick performance update here with the latest Nvidia driver, 572.70. As some of you may have noticed, the ability for us to force DLSS 4 has been removed from the driver. I'm using a 4070 Super, and when that feature first dropped, I had zero issues. I was able to turn it on, games ran great with it. I was doubling if not tripling my frame rates in a lot of games at 1440p. As you can see now, it says it's completely unsupported. I haven't been able to figure out a way to turn this back on. I've tried the DLL swaps. None of that's working. I've uninstalled, reinstalled the Nvidia app multiple times, downloaded the old drivers. The second that I install the old Nvidia app, it seems to work until it goes through the update process. As soon as the update fires off, everything resets. Nothing is accessible anymore to unsupported games. I wasn't even able to get Star Citizen to show up initially. I had to add it multiple times, shut down, restart for it to actually appear on the list of unsupported applications. With this driver update, just like the last one, it resulted in a black screen of death. I gave it half an hour to install. The black screen persisted. It never came back. Restarted, and it said I never even attempted to install the driver. So I had to go back through the installation process again, and then it took it fine. But it did black screen the second time, but the reboot showed that it worked. So here we are in Area 18, one of the worst performing areas in the game, and as of 4.02, I would only be getting 35 to 40 frames per second here. As of current, I'm getting 55 to 60. This is without any of the DLSS stuff. As you can see, running 1440p, borderless, DirectX 11, none of the DLSS stuff is turned on, running very high quality, and the game is running fantastic. The 1% lows and the 0.1% lows are all over the place. Nothing is consistent with that, but the standard frame rate is actually really playable. So here I am running through Area 18, running from the Trade District all the way out to Riker Memorial. I'll speed this up for time's sake, but this is the full trip. You can pause it at any time to see the actual frame rates. I'm deeply impressed with the way that it's running at the moment. My gaming rig isn't anything to write home about. It's got a 5800X in it, 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM at 3200 megahertz. The game is running off an NVMe drive and an Asus Dual Series OC 4070 Super. Here on the tram, I was hitting almost 90 frames per second, which is unheard of, without a whole lot of lag warping, so it could be the server conditions are also prime for this. Before I started recording this, the server was running about 26 frames per second, with about 520 players. Since DLSS 4 is no longer enabled in the driver, I decided to give Lossless Scaling a try. This is using the brand new adaptive mode that they added, targeting 120 frames per second. With the base currently sitting at 72, I figured this would be an easy task. The rest of the settings I'm using are pretty standard for this setup. I'll be using scaling type FSR, sharpness is about 90, everything else is generally set to default. The only issue here is I couldn't get LS to show the FPS on the screen, but I was getting close to 120. The frame time was actually very good too with this setup here, but I was staying below 25 for the most part. There are a few spikes up higher. I don't know why, it just randomly peaks. Now I sped up this next part a little bit just to burn through it. I didn't notice any issues except for when I hit a 1% low. The adaptive went ballistic, so you'd have like this weird smearing effect, like it doesn't show up on the video at all, but to play it in person, it was very jarring, almost like ice skating. So I decided to set the adaptive down to 90 frames per second and see how that went. This experience felt far smoother. Again, in the 1% lows or the 0.01% blips that it had, you'd notice a little bit, but it was nowhere near as bad as it being at 120 frames. So this next part I'll leave run in real time, that way you can see the entire run back to the shuttle. So I was chasing this other player around the twists and turns, and I didn't notice a single bit of actual like frame generation smearing, any missed frames. Everything was nice and fluid except for right there, where the 1% low hit 7. And it literally came to a halt. Everything on that sign is razor sharp. I had zero issues reading anything. There's none of the traditional frame generation blur or the overscaling issues. And the great thing is that the FPS stayed between 80 and 90 the entire time. Now this is where things get interesting. The standard FPS was at or above the current target of 90, and it felt like the adaptive frame generation was confused, I guess would be the feeling that you got there. It's just one of those oddball sensations you get when playing VR games. Now that we're back at this lovely observation deck, I decided to switch it back to the old way I was running it before, with fixed ×2, and see how that same run went.
Want your company to be in good company? Our Corp's unique vertically integrated corporate parks offer amenities such as resource sharing and logistical pairing for our rental partners. Inquire today to learn how you can invest in making our Corp your new home.
With it being set to fix 2x, the run still felt really good. With the default frame rates I was getting, I was sitting somewhere between 90 and 140 the entire time. Obviously, again, you couldn't see it on the screen, what lossless scaling was actually showing. Again, this sign is razor sharp. But now I go and chase these players down, and you can't see a bit of smearing behind them. I also decided to check the spot out again because of the issues we had at the 90 adaptive run. We had roughly the same standard FPS, but it felt amazing. There were zero stutters, none of the ice skating effect, none of that VR motion sickness effect. Here I decided to take the ship up and take in the beautiful sunset above Area 18. Volumetric clouds were set to photo mode on this shot. It was running steady at 50 frames per second, ×2, 100 FPS. There was a lot of ship activity behind me, and there wasn't a single drop. Here I headed back up to Bikini Point just to check it out. I was getting roughly the same FPS that I was in atmosphere. Like you saw there, the lights just turned on, and I don't know why. I've never seen that happen before. Maybe it's part of that new immersive gameplay. I hope you enjoyed this video of my ongoing search for 60 FPS in Star Citizen. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, and subscribe. Take care.